Go ahead, Laura.
All right. Well, welcome, guys. I really want to take this time to welcome everybody to tonight's town hall. I'm very excited to be with you. My name's Laura Howard. I'm the chair of the Mental Health Committee for the Broward County Council PTA PTSA. As most of you know, the Parent Teacher Association. And then it's Parent Teacher Student Association once we're in middle school and high school. I'm passionate about assisting people with locating mental health resources that can possibly change their life and the lives of those around them for the better. I'm encouraged by mental health being talked about now a lot more than it was when I was young, but I want to see this trend continue. And I'm happy to contribute to make this happen. Lifting the stigma on mental health should be a goal of all of us in our communities. And I think by having conversations like this and events like this, we can reach that goal. I want to thank everyone for being here. I especially want to thank my committee who have worked diligently to make all these town halls a success, especially Lisa Math and Allie Walford. A special thank you also goes to Bert Miller for creating and editing each of the resource fair videos and his leadership in the creation of the BCCPTA Mental Health Committee. Heather Brooks for assisting with the flyers, and I especially want to thank Joel Smith, who has served as our moderator on each one of these town halls. Thank you all so much. This is our 5th virtual town hall focusing on mental health. We committed to holding 7 of them, 1 in each district for Broward Public Schools. The next 2 town halls will be in person. Our first one is going to be for District 6, which is Lori Rich Levinson. That's going to be on April 27th at 6:30 at the Sunrise Civic Center. Of course, it's for that district, but everybody is welcome. The same for the virtual. Everybody is always welcome to attend. Tonight's Town Hall, Empowered Minds, Empowered Lives, is being held for Lori Al-Hadef's District 3. Lori was elected to the Broward School Board in 2018 and works tirelessly for her district constituents. Thank you so much, Lori, for being here tonight, and thank you for all the work that you do for our students in the community. We will begin the evening with approximately 22-minute pre-recorded resource fair. As you watch this portion of tonight's hall, I suggest and recommend that you have your camera ready or your phone ready in case you'd like to take a picture of what is on the screen and or take notes. But we also will be placing these links and resource information and contacts in the chat as we go through the evening. And that will be during the Q&A portion. Also do remember that there is the chat feature that's there, and we will take questions in the chat during the Q&A portion, and which is at 7:30. And then we will also, you can raise your hand. The raised hand feature is there, or you could even unmute if you're frustrated, can't get it. You'd be welcome to unmute possibly too, and ask a question that way, because we do have some registration questions that were provided, and then we also have questions that will be answered and asked during the actual Q&A part. As for the raffles, we will go over those before the Q&A part, and the drawings will be held at the end of the event, at the end of the Q&A, which is around 8:50, 9 o'clock or so. At this time, we will begin the District 4 pre-recorded resource portion of tonight's event. Bert will be queuing that up. Thank you.
More than 70,000 people die from drug abuse in a year. 7.5 million people work more than one job to make ends meet. Human trafficking is a $32 billion industry in the U.S. On a single night, over 500,000 people are homeless in the U.S. Together, with thousands of corporate partners and millions of donors and volunteers, United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Together, in a year, we help more than 3 million people get health care services and support, and over 1 million people get on the path to financial stability. We help more than 2 million at-risk teens with out-of-school programs and individualized support, and over 500,000 people get back on their feet with job skills training. These are the faces of change. You can be one too.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
I'm Rick Riccardi. I'm the CEO of Fellowship RCO.
Hi, I'm Sarah Barkley. I'm the COO of Fellowship RCO. Our mission at Fellowship RCO is to support those seeking to initiate and sustain their recovery from a substance use disorder, regardless of their chosen pathway.
Fellowship RCO is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization. We provide peer-based recovery support services, structured housing, outreach, community education, recovery-focused activities, and prevention programs.
At PACE Center for Girls Broward, we provide girls and young women an opportunity for a better future through education, counseling, training, and advocacy. We offer a full-day academic and counseling program with a 1:14 teacher-student ratio and a counselor assigned to each girl who enrolls. We also offer a REACH program that provides individual and family therapy, as well as a diversion program. We also speak Spanish. Please do not hesitate to contact us at 954-561-6993.
Hello, my name is Selena King. I'm the System of Care Manager of Broward Behavioral Health Coalition, Broward's managing entity, and also a member of Broward's Community Response Team. Today, we'd like to give you an introduction to what is a recovery-oriented system of care, or ROSC for short. ROSC is not a model, but a value-driven framework to promote health and wellness for adults, children, and families throughout their chosen pathway to recovery. Using a recovery-oriented focus allows us to move away from an acute care response or crisis mode to how we can help ourselves and those we care for with overall wellness. ROSC is not one entity or person or agency, but how, as community partners, we can be inclusive of peer relationships, family, and natural supports. ROSC is about focusing on an individual's strengths and preferences, partnerships, and creating a meaningful lifestyle. A simple beginning to ROSC is language matters. How we communicate is a major focus to ROSC. We are sharing a one-page flyer with strengths-based language that you can begin to use starting now. Using strength-based language is powerful when communicating with individuals, family members, your staff, and other community partners about someone who's living with mental health, substance use, or often co-occurring symptoms. If you would like some more information about ROSC, please feel free to contact me and I will be happy to help. Thank you.
Hello, we're here to tell you about an important resource, 211 Broward. It's a number to call when you don't know the number to call. Our counselors are highly trained, multilingual, empathic, and empowering. You know, we're here 24/7 when we're free and confidential for any parent or caregiver or youth that needs support and resources. So just remember that number, dial 211. We're also here to provide suicide and crisis intervention for our community. You can also chat and text with us. Please dial 211.
Our mission at the Advocacy Network on Disabilities is to champion the rights of individuals with intellectual, developmental, and other disabilities by promoting inclusion, providing services, and advancing systems change. We are here to help you and your families. We serve families through weekly in-home counseling and a parenting education program. We also assist in providing concrete needs such as family stabilization funds, assistance with transportation, and wheelchair repairs. We provide services in English, Spanish, and Creole. If you're interested in finding out more about our services, please contact us at 305-596-1160. Thank you.
We are who we are. That's the beauty of us all. We are potential. We are the future. And we need each other. Because here, there is no you or me. There is only we. Big brothers, big sisters. We are proud of who we are.
This town of South Florida, Broward County. Boys Town mission is to change the way America cares for children and families.
Boys Town believes that every child deserves a future, every family deserves to stay together, and every community deserves to thrive.
And we are here to help you and your families. We provide in-home family services, care coordination services, and parenting classes. We speak Spanish, hablamos español.
And Creole, parle Creole. Please call us
at 754-222-8451 or 954-498-5526. We teach love.
We all have one thing in common right now. We're all adapting to a new normal. Whether you're experiencing stress, loneliness, or anxiety, remember, we're all in this together. It's okay to not be okay. To get help, dial 211. Brought to you by these partners.
I forgot to I wanted to use it, but just to put it in there.
Family Network on Disabilities, FND, was founded in 1985 by a group of parents of persons with disabilities who came together for mutual support and information sharing. FND is a family-centered and family-driven grassroots organization for persons with disabilities and their families that is family-centered and family-driven. The mission of Family Network on Disabilities is striving for complete integration and equality of people with disabilities in a society without barriers. FND serves all persons with all disabilities and believes that everyone has intrinsic value and the inherent right to respect, independence, knowledge, freedom of choice, inclusion, quality of life, success, and equality. Family Network on Disabilities operates the following programs across Florida: Parent Education Network, PEN, Parent Support Network, PSN, Parents Offering Parents Information and Networking, POPN, and Family Star. They are all programs designed to ensure that parents of children with a full range of disabilities and mental health challenges have the training and information they need to prepare their children for not only school but to be able to lead productive independent lives to the fullest extent possible. These programs offer free help and information to families of students with disabilities and the professionals that serve them. FND provides assistance and support to parents, educators, community organizations, and faith-based groups to increase the kinds and types of parental involvement and engagement, and therefore, to increase student academic achievement across Florida. FND provides these free services to form and foster partnerships between home and school, and to build sustainable relationships for student success. All services provided by Family Network on Disabilities are delivered to families in a format that is suitable to their needs and culture, by professionals who have a personal understanding of what it's like to have a disability or a loved one with a disability. The mission of Family Network on Disabilities is striving for complete integration and equality of people with disabilities in a society without barriers. Contact us for more information. We will be pleased to help you and your family.
Community Youth Services is a leading provider of innovative, high-quality, family-centered services utilizing evidence-based practices with the goal of improving the lives of those we proudly serve. Since 1999, young people in Broward County who are struggling with healthcare, family, and social problems have turned to CYS for help. An initiative Memorial Healthcare System, CYS offers a wide variety of resources to Broward's youth and their families, including after-school activities, crime prevention programs, early intervention, and substance abuse services, healthcare, and more. Community Youth Services has already touched the lives of thousands of young people by providing opportunities for youths to succeed. We benefit them, their families, and our entire South Florida community. You could be the next person whose lives we help change.
Hi, the mission of Jack and Jill Children's Center is to break the cycle of poverty for children of high-need working families through quality early childhood education and family strengthening programs. We are here to help you and your families. In addition to early education and family strengthening programs, we offer elementary education, health and wellness programming, a food and clothing pantry, and emergency assistance for our families. También hablamos español. Please do not hesitate to contact us at 954-463-8772. Thank you.
NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots organization dedicated to improving the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. NAMI Broward County provides referrals to services, education programs, and advocacy for the improvement of mental health treatment. To join us, visit www.namibroward.org or call 954-316-9907.
One Community Partnership 3 is a system of care grant that aims to support Broward County's two largest child-serving systems, Broward County Public School System and ChildNet Child Welfare System. OCP3 links youth ages 12 to 21 with evidence-based community resources, and we invite you to unmask your feelings about the emotional ups and downs associated with living through this pandemic. Visit ocp3.org for more information on eligibility criteria.
Hello, this is Carlos Camacho, Community Outreach Supervisor for Psych Solutions. We provide mental health services for students and their families in Dade and Broward. These services are provided at home, at schools, or even via telehealth. For more information, please visit us at psychsolutionsinc.net or give us a call at 305-668-9000. Thank you so much for this opportunity and looking forward to hearing from you.
Hello, my name is Shantae Cummings and I'm the Project Manager for SEDNET Region 10. SEDNET is the multi-agency network for students with emotional and behavioral disabilities. SEDNET works with the local school district, local community agencies, and also community-based providers to provide a quality system of care for students and families. SEDNET has a partnership with 23 agencies to provide services to students and families at no out-of-pocket cost. For more information, please visit sednetfl.info. That's sednetfl.info. Thank you.
Good day, beautiful people. Bev here. Let's take a moment to breathe together, shall we? Close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Welcome back. I'm so happy to be here and connected with you all. I'm Bev Perez, founder of Shield Us. We support the law enforcement community in identifying and healing from mental, physical, and emotional challenges that come along with this career field. I invite you all to go to our website at www.shieldus.app to download this free resource to stay connected with us.
Smith Community Mental Health is committed to delivering mental health and substance use services that are designed by the needs of our Broward County individuals and families. Smith has a full continuum of behavioral health programs to meet the needs of families with a variety of challenges that include mental health, substance use and diversion in-home therapies, comprehensive treatment, case management, as well as specialty after-school and year-round support services. Please visit our website at smithcmh.com or call 954-321-2296.
SunServe is a nonprofit organization in Fort Lauderdale that provides services to the LGBT community. In the youth department, we provide therapy, life coaching, and peer-led social support groups for youth in middle school, high school, as well as early college. For more information about what SunServe does, please check out our website, www.sunserve.org.
We are currently facing a tobacco epidemic among youth. As a result, thousands will face a premature death, as well as countless health issues in the future. The United Way's Broward Youth Coalition wants to let you know about Tobacco 21, a national campaign aimed at raising the minimum legal age to tobacco and nicotine sales in the U.S. to 21. If the legal age was raised to 21 nationwide, there would be 250,000 fewer premature deaths and 50,000 fewer lung cancer deaths per year. It is our moral obligation to act on this matter now. Consider the benefits of raising the legal age to buy tobacco in your city today. Thank you.
Hard to hope, hard to cope with crisis.
But while we might be all alone, we've never been more tightly tethered, because we'll only weather this unknown together. So we get to work. We mend, we don't break even when we bend. Somewhere, another mom pays her bills. Somewhere, another child eats his fill. We are the world's neighbors, making our communities brighter, greater, fighting for every person in the neighborhood. We, the coming of the common good, so dare to care, to be hope-sighted. We're never divided, for when we live to give, we always live united.
Okay, thanks everybody for watching our resource fair that is available on our YouTube channel as of right now. So if you need something off it, you can always go to our YouTube channel, which all of our resource fairs and copies of our virtual mental health town halls are on there as well. At this time, I'm gonna show you the our giveaways that we're gonna have tonight. You will have to be on at the end in order to receive the giveaway. Let's see. Okay, so we have a $25 Starbucks card. We have 5 free pizza coupons from Hungry Howie's in the Margate location or the Deerfield location. We have a $15 Publix gift card. We have a $25 Target card. We have another 5 free pizza coupons from Hungry Howie's. We have another $15 Publix gift card. And we have 2 mental health, from the Mental Health Committee, 2 gift baskets to give away. And like I said, you will need to be on at the end of the event in order to win one of those prizes. My name is Bert Miller. I am the Broward County Council PTSA president. And when I became president, one of my things was to start the mental health committee and to have a town hall in every school board member's district, because I had attended one in Pompano at one time, and there was people from all over the district that attended it. You know, there was over 150 people that attended, and the majority of the people were coming from the South Broward. So we knew it needed to be done in the district. So that was one of my missions, to make sure that we get one done in every school board member's district. And this is our last and final virtual one. We have 2 left that will be in person, like Laura had spoke about before. And they will be concluded by the end of May, which my term will end on May 27th at our banquet. So now I would like to introduce Lori Alahoff, who is the school board member for District 4, who we are doing this town hall for this evening. Lori?
Good evening. My name is Lori Alhadeff, and I'm proud to be your District 4 school board member. On behalf of the entire school board, I bring greetings and welcome everyone to this town hall event. Empowered minds, empowered lives. I'm so happy you're here to attend. Students, staff, and families are working to break the stigma of reaching out for mental health support. You don't know someone else's story, so be kind, be patient, and show love. A unique fact about me is that I have a golden doodle dog, and her name is Roxy, and she's a therapy dog. This evening, we will be discussing the numerous types of available mental health resources. Now handing it off to Joel Smith.
Thank you, Lori, very much. And good evening, everybody. Listening to the early comments, I think we all grew up talking about how it takes a village to raise a child.
Joel froze.
Hello.
Joel, can you hear us? You
A
froze.
community. And so I think in the world are beset by mobility and challenges, it's hard to have a village. And this becomes part of the way we create village. So I'm excited to participate. I'm happy to be here. I also think it's important we all recognize, I bet everyone whose picture is on the screen now deals with some stress in their life. We all do. And
Joel, hang
Yes.
on one second.
Sure, sorry.
I'm trying to find Carolyn and Dr. David Ruby. If they could just raise their hand, use the raise hand feature. Oh, I got Dr. Ruby there. And Carolyn, who am I missing?
Jamal Carter. Jamal Carter.
Oh yeah, that's who I'm looking for. Is he on?
I'm here. There he
Ray,
is.
can you use your raise hand feature so I can find you?
Sorry, I'm looking for, okay.
See him there, Bert?
Yep, I got him. Okay, let me pin him. Okay, now we should have the panelists.
Okay, thank you. And of course, now you've totally destroyed my flow, so I'm going to have a nervous breakdown myself.
Sorry, Joel.
But my name is Joel Smith, and many of you know I am a retired educator was the director of dropout prevention for the district for many years, and subsequently have gone on. For those of you who find anything I say tonight interesting or want to reach out to me, I put my contact information in the chat at the very beginning. I want to thank this panel, who you're going to meet in just a minute. I will tell you that they're not getting paid to do this. They're doing it because it's important. We are part of the village in order to, to raise ourselves up and our families up and our kids up in a way that we can feel that we're all somewhere positive on the what I like to call the arc of wellness. So you've met Lori. We're going to do a quick introduction of the panel. I'm going to try and do it alphabetically, but my spelling sucks, so bear with me. And then we'll get right into the questions. So first, Tell you that this woman scares me because she's significantly taller than I am, but Saborni Barnes is a special member of our panel because we in Broward County have a significant LGBTQ population, but not a lot of supports available to help them navigate their needs. And Saborni is one of those people who particularly addresses LGBTQ youth and navigates, helps them navigate. So Saborni, please.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. Got the headphones on, but yes, as SunServe, we provide services to LGBTQ plus youth in all of Broward County, and anyone who has driven through Broward County knows that it is literally the size of Rhode Island. It is the size of a state, everyone. So that's a lot of young people who are in need of assistance. And I always try to put out there, SunServe is not the only one who can and does do this work. We all can support LGBT youth. And today, that is what I'm definitely here to do. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Saborni. Next, someone I've worked with many, many times through the years, who has a critically important position in our community, aligned with the school system, because SEDNet is the connection between what kids get and need at school and how it aligns to the services available out in the community. And she does double duty because she also monitors the deepest at-risk kids who are at risk for death by suicide. So we're happy to introduce you to Shantae Cummings.
Thank you so much, Joe. There's not much left for me to say now, so thank you for that. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I've dubbed myself an official friend of BCCPTA because I've done this a couple of times now. I do want to share, just as Joe said, SEDNet is the multi-agency network for students with emotional and behavioral disabilities. However, we extend our reach to students who have both emotional and behavioral concerns. And the key piece that I work with is bridging that gap between community services and school-based services so that kids get what they need in either setting. So thank you.
Thank you. So that's a name and a contact that ladies and gentlemen in the audience, you need to write down. And I would also remind everyone to please be on mute. Use the raised hand feature or the chat to answer questions. And you probably have already figured out that I screw up alphabetically already, and I overlooked Jamal Carter, able to join us late, so I don't have biographical information about him other to say that I think he's the young'un in the group, so we'll probably put a lot of pressure on him to educate us. But please introduce yourself, Jamal.
Yes, my name is Jamal. I'm actually from South Florida Wellness Network. I'm one of the wellness coaches there for the youth. So I'm just here to go ahead and advocate on behalf of the youth. Basically, like you said, speak for the youngins, let them know how the youngins are feeling and how it's deemed in my community and everything like that, and how mental health is looked in within my community.
Thank you, Jamal. And following up, Jamal is basically his boss, but a treasure in our community, a person who wears her heart on her sleeve all the time and is incredibly passionate is my good friend, Susan Nyamura.
Thank you, Joel. I haven't told you I don't like the B word. Things a few people know that about me. I'm really Jamal's partner in change and somebody that elevates the people that I work with because they're all amazing human beings and they all give so selflessly. But I am Susan Nyamura and I identify as a person in long-term recovery. And basically what that means for me is I haven't had a hospitalization or an incarceration since 2006. I'm also a parent of some amazing young adults and adult children that have navigated the system because of their big emotions and their big feelings that they get to experience, also known as mental health challenges. So I'm here in a multifaceted role as a parent advocate and champion, but also as a community leader and a statewide advocate. So I'm looking forward to being here with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And joining us from Joe DiMaggio is Dr. David Ruby, who I don't know, So I'm anxious to meet and hear from him. It's a critical position in our community because he addresses and serves children who are at risk and who come in with trauma and stress and need attention. And at the very least, I'm hoping he's a New York Yankee fan. But at any rate, Dr. Ruby, please.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate tonight. It's truly a pleasure to join a PTA organization. That school is where the kids live on a regular basis. They may come to my office for an hour a week. Maybe if it's really, depending on the situation, it could be 2 hours a week. But nevertheless, though, they live anywhere between 5 to 8 hours a day in the school environment. And the data is very clear that teachers' input, parental input into children's mental health services is really the cornerstone of how we make clinical decisions. I have been at Joe DiMaggio now as the medical director of child and adolescent psychiatry for approximately, I think I'm just starting my 7th year this month. It was my goal from the beginning of my stay at Joe DiMaggio. I come from working in New York State via the Miami VA. So I've been in government services, I've been in public health throughout my entire career. I think it's absolutely critical that we, shall we say, who serve in hospital settings, get together with providers of services, resources, because can't do it. None of us can do it by ourselves, and we have to link and connect, as well as support each other in this work that we do, which can be quite simultaneously exhilarating and exhausting at the same time. So it's really a pleasure, and I appreciate the invitation to participate tonight. And I represent the clinical arm as we serve children who come to us from not only South County, but Northern Dade, and we get patients from really all over the Tri-County area.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. Nice to have you with us. And I noticed you sidestepped the Yankee question.
Sorry, I'm from Detroit originally.
Oh my God. All right. All right.
But I do have a plan to go to the Yankee game to see the Tigers play sometime in New York this summer.
Well, maybe we can become friendly.
Why not? Hank Greenberg is originally from the Bronx.
Yes, sir. Last but not least, certainly I want to introduce everyone to a representative from our school system who works in the world of social and emotional learning and is intensely involved in the Center for Mind-Body Medicine and the impact that it has favorably on our children and our community. So Carolyn St. Angelo, please.
Thank you so much, Joel, and welcome everybody. I'm wearing 2 hats tonight. The first one is a Broward County Public School representative as part of the School Counseling and Brace Department as a social emotional learning team lead and a CEL and mindfulness support specialist. I'm a 30-year educator, so the passion for well-being for our children, mental health, and resilience is near and dear to my heart. Having been in classrooms from the elementary level as a science resource teacher and gifted teacher to working with middle schoolers in the Cambridge program, working Title I and STEM as a holistic horticulture growing inside and out. And now in the capacity of leading and working and collaborating throughout the district with many different initiatives to bring social emotional learning and mindfulness to our students and our staff in the community. The other hat is as a representative for the Mind-Body Resiliency Coalition, a partnership of many different professionals and facilitators of mindfulness that have partnered with Children's Services Council and providing different opportunities there. My own background with mindfulness is having been trained in mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, through the University of California, San Diego. And also, as Joel mentioned, going through the training with the Center for Mind-Body Medicine who has partnered with Broward County Public Schools and Children's Services Council to bring in workshops and skills groups and some of the other platforms to address the preventative parts, the proactive parts of supporting our students and our staff's well-being and mental health. So honored and thrilled to be here, and also just hoping that we can continue this journey to elevate and support the needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn, and I'm sure we'll get back to SEL, social emotional learning, as we go. I'd like to encourage everyone in the audience, and again, we want to thank you very much for being here, for being part of this community. Please, we've captured some questions as you've registered, but if anything you've heard from the panelists have spurred a different thought, please put it in the chat. I'd like to just start flipping it back to Lori and just ask, from a kind of a global standpoint at the district, and you as a person who very clearly has safety as a preeminent cornerstone activity, what do we need to know? What is the district's position on learning and social development these days? Kind of a global question, I know.
So, since COVID and our students have been isolated at home, and now we're getting back to school, getting back to the classroom, education is our top priority in getting students up to grade level. We've had that COVID slide, the summer slide, and so we're working really hard through tutoring and then this coming summer school to get our students at grade level. But our mental health is a top priority of the school district. We have the Talk app on every student's computer where they can fill out a form and be connected with a mental health resource, which that's amazing. I think it's a big accomplishment for the district to give students that ability to be an advocate for themselves and take advantage of those opportunities. But it's definitely a work in progress. And mental health, I look at it as one of those layers of school safety in our schools. And we have to continue to fund mental health. It's so important. And we need to be able to actually reach our students and reach their needs and give them the mental resources that they need to be successful and achieve and, reach their academic goals.
Thank you, Lori. So Jamal, let's put you right on the spot. You've heard sort of a global sense of vision. What are the kids saying? What are you feeling? And I'm old, so I still say kids. I hope that's okay.
That's okay. As far as like the school base, I in my opinion, honestly, I know because of COVID, like a lot of the kids when they were home, like a lot of them weren't really focused. They weren't really in tune. They weren't really paying attention. I can say, at least for my brothers, watching them in school, they were logged in, but they'll be logged in the computers in the living room, and then they're in the their room playing the game. It's like there was no like, there really wasn't any type of schoolwork really being done, honestly. So I feel like a lot of, just in my opinion, a lot of them, and just hearing from my friends, their younger siblings, a lot of them might have slipped as well, like not really taking that school year as seriously during COVID because it was at home. I do feel like as of now, with them going back to school, it should be a lot better. Because they have that discipline, they have to actually be in class and actually have to do the work and everything like that. So I think now it should go ahead and go better. But definitely before, due to COVID, I definitely think it was like a little slip.
Thank you. And there's a very long question, so I'm going to get to another question and then try and read that. But we have a question that came in earlier during the registration, which is a kind of a general question, but important. What resources are available to our youth struggling with mental health issues? I'd like to kind of throw that to Shantae first, because the school district often sees the kids or at least experiences those the stressful outcomes of the kids and then has to make recommendations. So perhaps you can tackle that one first, Shantae.
I can, Joel, but can you do me a quick favor and repeat the question?
The question is, what resources? I know I talk too much. She's being polite, telling me I talk too much. What resources are available to our youth struggling with mental health issues?
That's an excellent question. I think, well, let me start with the district resources. And we talk about this often. We have our family counseling program and this is open to all students to get a free up to 12 weeks of counseling, depending on what the issue and the need is. In some cases where families would rather connect with community sources rather than it being within the school district, we have, as I mentioned in the resource affair clip, we have a partnership with over 20 agencies, and each and every school is able to make connections with these community agencies. And not only do these agencies follow up and do intake, they can also make arrangements with the school, with the parent, when necessary, to deliver counseling or therapeutic services directly during the school day. As Ms. Al-Hadef mentioned, we have children who are still struggling on levels of adjustment, and sometimes they need that level of intervention during the school day. And so we have those partnerships that are open to them. We have the continuing talk app for students who are hesitant to say these things out loud and be able to send those messages so that they can get hooked up with a mental health professional. So there are a variety of ways that students and families can get direct assistance.
So again, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, Shantae is a resource that you ought to be noting her contact information, because she is a link between the school district and the community. Dr. Ruby, did you, I'll get you in a second, Lori. I see your hand. Dr. Ruby, you're seeing kids after they've been identified. Thoughts on the question?
No. So first of all, I love your shirt where we have the brain with an anti-stigma brain here.
I'll be happy to make one available to you.
Thank you. I definitely believe very strongly that, home is where the heart is. And if I said before that children spend most of their days in school, that we should try very hard to get them the help they need in school. We have been overloaded, and it is remarkable and kind of sad that how many people come to the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital emergency room with suicidal ideation. I don't know, given the grayness of my beard, whether or not we're actually seeing more than there ever was, whether or not we're identifying children more, or whether or not children are just more desperate and families are more desperate, and perhaps the skill levels for kids in terms of resiliency is down. Suicide is a unhealthy solution to a very real problem, and I think we have to identify. And it's become too easy to say I'm suicidal than it is to say, wow, somebody's bothering me, somebody is bullying me, somebody, I don't understand the work, I can't pay attention, I can't focus, I'm sad, maybe I've had a loss. Suicide runs too easily off the lips of our kids, and trying to figure out ways to solve problems is something that we have to work on to be able to help children and families with a much better vocabulary to be able to express themselves rather than going straight to suicidal ideation. And then inevitably, once suicide is mentioned, a trip to the emergency room is almost mandatory, because you've just identified yourself as needing an emergency evaluation. It's easy to put a child in the hospital. I mean, that doesn't require a lot of expertise. What requires expertise is to be able to identify what the core problem is and then figure out a treatment plan for said problem. That does require time, energy, and resources. We spend, in our emergency room, we spend a lot of time with families to try and avoid hospitalization, to avoid more family disruption. But inevitably, not every child can manage that. There are not enough beds in our community for inpatient services, and there are certainly not enough outpatient spots. Therefore, like I said before, and I'd like to get to know Shantae. I know her. I think your predecessor quite well. So to be able to figure out ways to bring the services to the children, and I know that that is what FISP tries to do, and what Children in Youth Services try to do as well. But yes, we are seeing a lot of depressed kids, a lot of non-resilient families, especially given all the stressors of the past couple of years.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. Lori, you wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned tonight some of the organizations outside the school district, but here in District 4, like Shine, Parkland Cares, Eagles Haven, and Tomorrow's Rainbow. And these are amazing resources that were started after the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, but they're available for everyone to access these resources. So I really just wanted to make sure I shouted them out tonight.
Thank you, Lori.
Tomorrow's Rainbow was in our virtual resource fair.
Yes. And just so that everyone knows, one of the questions we got in was, how do we find out what resources are available? So let me share with you that 211 First Call for Help has a resource guide, both a printed book, but also a resource. I'm sorry, they're not doing a printed book, but on their website, you can do a search for specifically what you want without talking to anybody. The Mental Health Association of Southeast Florida has an older printed book and also an online search factor. The Children's Services puts out an annual book of the programs that they fund. So there are a number of resources available, but of the people on this in front of you on this screen, if you call Laura, if you call me, we will connect you. I'd like to switch gears for just a second and switch over to Susan, because there's national information that our deaths by opioid abuse are up 100,000 over last year. And this is an area of concern that Susan and her organization address on a daily basis. So we'd love to welcome some comments, Susan.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Joel. Yeah, as we know that, amidst the pandemic, we have been battling the opioid epidemic for quite some time, and we're seeing it show up all over Broward County, all over the state of Florida. And, we obviously hit the news with a lot of the stuff going on with the spring breakers that are happening. And I know that Ashley Moody made a public statement yesterday that we have another fentanyl analog or opioid analog that's coming down the pike that has been pretty much infiltrating Pasco County that is naloxone resistant. So, not to put fears in anybody, but we have big problems that are coming down the pike, across the state of Florida with regards to opioids. And so our organization really is tasked with going out and educating people about being safe and making sure that they're being careful. We're seeing that it's showing up in marijuana, cocaine, all kinds of different things. And, it's a really huge concern for us, especially with young people that may be starting to experiment and take on other effects of different drugs that they may be either peer pressured into a lot of other things. And we actually happen to have a program here called the Broward Youth Reentry Program, which is part of the diversion program with some of the youth that are being arrested for, some pretty severe cases. And, as we've seen, through the pandemic, that has even gone up. And it's really kind of frightening with the substance use disorders that are plaguing, our adult population, but now trickling into the youth, and really kind of looking at how do we work at it as a prevention model and really push that out and, help these youth really understand and, usually using models, evidence-based models like Seeking Safety to really engage young people in ways to cope and self-moderate their emotions is super important. We do a lot of education surrounding that. And one of the other things that comes up and brings up, I know I'm veering off the opioids, but it's the vaping. We're seeing a lot of things coming in the vapes, and it's not just nicotine, but it's extreme amounts of THC that we're seeing coming through the vapes, and have had reported hospitalizations because of excited delirium and seizures because of the amount of THC that's coming in a cartridge. So there's a lot going on in our community with relation to mental health, emotional health, substance use disorders, and we're really trying to get ahead of it, most specifically for the area of our young people. I happen to have young children that are in high school, and the conversations and the street names that they're using for the drugs that, a lot of professionals aren't aware of is really very scary. And, and the violence that we see happening, across our school. So I'm super excited to be here and want to get involved as much as possible. And this is why we have our young people that are working to kind of engage the young people either on the front end or on the back end.
So I want to get to Jamal on that, but just for a second, if you're okay with flexible language, John Oliver last week had a long segment on the status of drug use today and the impact of fentanyl and the fact that nobody knows how much fentanyl is too much or where it is, and to support what Susan's saying. So that is just another resource. Jamal, any comment to build on what Susan's saying with the young people seeing and hearing?
Yes. So like Miss Susan was saying, it is affecting like my youth and everything like that. My youth, they definitely do use, whether it be, weed or cocaine or whatever their choice of drug is. And that fentanyl has been found in those, like you said, in all those type of different drugs. So it has been affecting my youth. I actually have seen somebody, before I knew what it was, I've seen somebody like overdose and they did go ahead and sniff the cocaine. That was actually last year. So it's been around for a very long time. Before I was even, with the network, I've been seeing it's been affecting my youth and everything like that. So I definitely do try to speak to them, let them know, like, try to test test everything, make sure, but you can't really, they can't even really, trust their, basically a dealer. They've been getting it for so long because, that dealer could be getting it from a new person where they don't know that it's in there. So it's like, it's affecting basically everybody, like everybody around basically who's using, no matter what type of choice of drug you use, honestly.
Thank you, Jamal. So again, I think it's important to catch our breath for a second and realize that we're living in a stressful time, and people find ways to remove stress. And not every way that we choose to remove stress is a healthy way. Some of us eat way too much chocolate or whatever it might be. And we know that substance use is a tool that people use to reduce the stress. Yeah, they want to get high, but it's a stress reduction mechanism. And so we're all dealing with these. And I think it's important for us to recognize that as adults, the stress we feel rolls downhill to our kids. And so we need to be checking ourselves at the door too. We come home with baggage and we need to be prepared to check our. I'd like to switch gears a little bit. Saborni, there's been some recent legislation which you might be aware of. What's the impact on your population?
Yes.
And are you angry?
Don't ask me questions you know the answer to. I'm not happy about this. Yes, recently legislation was officially passed and will become official law soon. The Parents' Rights in Education Bill, also called the Don't Say Gay Bill by its opponents, was made, or more so was signed into law by Governor DeSantis recently, and it will impact the youth that are living here, specifically the LGBT youth, because yes, it does specify that you can't discuss anything having to do with sexual orientation or gender identity for those in, I believe, kindergarten and third grade, but it also has the additional stipulation that you can't have, that it's also depending on the grade level, or more specifically, where that young person is or where the group is. And that's where you get into that dangerous territory of like, okay, how do you make that assumption that someone is not outside of this specific age, not able to have this conversation? And also it's creating an issue that wasn't even there in most schools for K-3. They're not talking about sexual orientation and gender identity. That's not the main topic of conversation. Those kids are not talking about, you know, safe sex, healthy sex practices. That does not happen until later, once you are in like middle school, where you start talking about your body and puberty and things like that. So it is creating an issue and a struggle. And a lot of the youth who have been talking about it, some of them are part of SunServe, some are just individuals that I know in the community. They're upset about it because they know that it's gonna, if it doesn't impact them, it's gonna impact someone that comes after them. And that's where the issue in and of itself lies. And yes, no, I'm highly upset about this. I'm highly, highly upset. You know that.
So as a follow-up, I know, without being political, I know that one of the reference tools the governor used was the gingerbread figure, not the gingerbread man, the gingerbread woman, the gingerbread figure. And
yes,
that's been widely accepted as a pretty way to discuss or to understand gender and orientation. What tools are there that are being developed or that you're aware of that are going to help young people be able to question? Or is it too soon to know the answer to that?
I'm going to say at the moment it's a little too soon. In general, from what I've noticed with the young people, they learn a lot from the environment that's around them, from what's popular today, what's on TV, things like that. So they do get a lot of what's going on by that. They get a lot of that in the home from the families that they're surrounded by. But what is necessary is being able to have those conversations safely and have resources like the genderbread person or the gender unicorn, which is the newer version of it, I believe. So that way you can have those conversations. And I admit you can have that conversation not having to do with, you know, specifically someone's sexual orientation or, you know, their gender identity, but just about romantic love. You can equate it to that, which that's something that a lot of young people don't truly understand. A lot of them do equate romance with sex, and that's not always it. Like talking about that conversation, like how is it that I can be attracted to someone in this way, but then romantically my heart goes to that person. Understanding friendship, love, opening that door to talk about the different types of way that you can genuinely care for a person. At least that's how I've always used the genderbread person and the gender unicorn for other individuals that are younger, even for the young people who work, who I see at SunServe, who are in that age range of middle school to high school, because that is the important conversation to have with them.
Thank you, Saborni. Shantae, you work with all of the providers that are certified to work with the district and to reach out to kids. What's the conversation with them in terms of addressing the limitations that our leaders are placing on us in terms of dealing with kids when they're raising issues?
That's a great question. And so the first thing I think about is the benefit or the privilege of that confidential relationship. And so our conversation between the therapist and the student. And so the conversation we are having is the child's needs are prioritized and be able to service that as they would, as our clinicians do. The other piece of it where it starts to get tricky is about how we are helping represent those needs to both the school and in some cases to parents. And so how are we helping communicate what a specific child needs in light of particular restrictions or discomfort? And so they're taking on that added responsibility and, you know, doing it well, might I add, but really focusing on, particularly in the school setting, focusing on what this child needs to be successful. And so not necessarily every single piece of that conversation in the therapeutic relationship is going to come out, but then that clinician, that therapist can help the child navigate some of these situations to get the student what they need without sort of, staying within certain confines, if you will. But we want to certainly prioritize and build those relationships. And you have people in the school setting and in the community setting where you can say, this is what this child needs, without necessarily having to put this child in an uncomfortable position, but really help with the advocacy.
Thank you. And Carolyn, don't go anywhere because I'm going to get to you in a minute. But I'd like to follow up with Dr. Ruby in terms of the clientele that you're getting, the kids that are coming in. Would you say it's more personal development issues, more social stress, the issues of not being socialized because of the pandemic, or because they can't come out because they can't talk about these things? Or is it a hybrid of everything?
Everything counts all the time. Trying to nail that down. And of course, we have to, include with that, we have to talk about the integrity of medical conditions and brain conditions and of course, science as it goes. I appreciated Shantae's comments about helping a child succeed, because how should I say this? An A on a test is worth a few milligrams of Prozac. And I think that, especially in a get together like tonight, our goal is, how can we help with emotional, psychiatric, behavioral health needs within the children, within the school systems, in order to help them become successful students? Because so as Jamal sort of pointed out earlier, that hey, the computer may be on, and I quickly hide my video, so therefore now I can go ahead and play Sudoku while I'm talking to you, which is probably what happened with a lot of our students over the course of the past year. And I think that we have to, there is something very upsetting and depressing to be able to sit in class and not know what's going on. And what's going to happen is that the child will act out, whether that's because that's the only resource they have, or whether or not it's a way to get attention, or whether or not it's a reflection of a mental illness. I think the best thing that we can think about is how to make children more resourceful, more resilient, regardless of sexual orientation, intellectual capacity, or behavioral and emotional disabilities. Because everybody has all of us have a way to grow. And I think our goal is trying to find what works unique for any particular subset of children.
I think before you got to that last little part, you actually diagnosed my whole youth. Carolyn, I think most of us on the panel would think that what you bring to the table represents part of the magic potion. So if you could share with us in a little bit more detail, what does SEL mean at the district level? What are you bringing to our population to do what Dr. Ruby was saying, to balance the stress so that kids can academically be successful?
Thank you. And
it took a while to get to you, but I led up to that.
Very patient, and all of the valuable insight and perspectives get priority, absolutely. The question, I think, is what are the foundational pieces of what Broward County Public School is offering that supports the learning eventually, but when we're talking today about mental health, resilience, that wellness piece, I'm thinking with the foundation of being aware of what's going on. And that's where the mindfulness piece comes in. Broward County's framework uses CASEL, Collaborative for Academic, Social, Emotional Learning. The 5 core competencies start with an intrapersonal, the relationship with the self. So self-awareness and self-management. Then there's the interpersonal, which many of us—
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you, as you explain what the letters are, can you also add kind of a descriptive of how one would do that? In other words, how does one do the C?
Yeah, so the C is part of the organization that has set out these 5 core competencies. And so when we focus on them, the self-awareness and self-management pieces, and then there's the social awareness and relationship skills, which lead to that ability to make responsible decisions, tying in all of the things that we've heard so far this evening. So when we bring in the awareness as a foundation, and then the social emotional learning to deal with these social skills in relationship with yourself, that allows that opportunity to manage, to regulate, to be resilient, to have that growth mindset when things go south, when the stresses kick in, when we're up against obstacles and we might want to give up or find a maladaptive way to deal with things. So if we can find that pause button, that's one of the things that we bring in mindfulness, that practice, so that you'll have that ability to say, wait, let me not react because I want to flail out or make a decision which isn't going to serve me best. But I can pause and then respond and see what my choices are with clarity. So our brain,
So for I'm sorry to interrupt again, for our audience who may not be familiar with mindfulness, how do we teach kids the pause? What would be a simple way to show the pause?
Oh, in one of the videos early on, and I forget which organization offered that opportunity to take a breath. So where you can either take a breath or notice sensations of the body, like, oh, look at this, my fists are clenched because I'm stressed, or invite in the environment with, notice the sounds or the temperature of the room. What that does is it gets us out of that fight or flight mode with chronic stress. Some of us are stuck there. I know I have days like that, but to be able to drop down so that we can best touch into some of those resources, some of those tools, and make those decisions so that we're not impulsive or reactive. That's that practice. That's why they call it a mindfulness practice. So we build up those pathways and then can make those or see those choices and then hopefully proceed, especially with developing brains of our children and youth.
People need to understand the importance of breathing, not just because we need to breathe to live, but the way we breathe, the patience with which we breathe, because it impacts the vagus nerve, which gives us the control. And parents and people who are on this town hall meeting need to understand we need to do it for ourselves as well. And Americans, we haven't grown up with that philosophy. It's something that we are learning or choosing to learn. Families that breathe together or that take breath, we used to call it just counting to 10, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is, but yeah.
It's one of the ways, yes, and it all ties in with, the definition of social emotional learning is about finding those ways for young people and adults to apply those skills, that knowledge, and the attitudes of a healthy identity, managing emotions, bringing in empathy, so among others.
So
Hey,
Jamal.
Joel?
Yes, sir.
We've got one question. Maria Castronova has her hand up.
Okay.
Maria, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. My question is, it's a statement and a question. Recently, I'm a foster adoptive mom through JAFCO, and recently we had a support group meeting, and it was for our children. And it was given by Abby Daneman. She is from the Broward Sheriff's Department, and she did a wonderful, my son was there and he's in high school. He's 15. He is having the hardest time. That mindfulness and all that we're supposed to be doing and meditation at the schools. Carolyn, I'm sorry it's not being done because right now we have to take our FSAs, our course, end of the course things. My son has struggled, but when he went to see this woman from the Broward Sheriff's Department speak, he related to her. He knew exactly what she was talking about. and the fentanyl is being put in everything. It's put in liquid, it's put in oils, it's put in vapes. They're doing something now that's called phishing. So what else are we going to do? And could we use this possible resource to get out to these schools, because these kids are using them, and kids who never used or did beforehand, before COVID, are turning to them. My son started to vape. I have him in a MST program, but what is the school board doing? That mindfulness that we did, I'm also a teacher for Broward County Schools. We did on the computer. No one did. Jamal, you're totally right. My son had the computer on, but he was listening. He was on his phone. He did everything. He lost that year. He's struggling so hard. But what are we doing for these kids? His friends are calling me. They're depressed. They want to kill themselves. A couple of his friends try to commit suicide. They're using drugs. My niece started cutting herself. We're talking about—
I interrupt you for a second. I
Yeah.
hope that if you know of any young people who are at that level of risk and are cutting themselves, you're calling
She got
someone.
help. She got help, but I'm getting calls from my son's friends. What do I do about this? I'm lonely. I have all these friends. Nobody's helping. We're talking about mindfulness. We're talking about everything that Broward County Schools are doing. Where is it? That's my question. How are we helping these kids? You guys are great, but only a few parents are on, and we're trying to use the resources. How could we get it to the kids? These are the people who need it. Teachers, thank God for my son's teachers. They've been wonderful. They've been understanding, but they don't know how to help. So my question is, they know how to help, but this mindfulness, everything you're saying, it's not getting to the schools. It's not.
What was the last name you just let in?
So
I would
that's my
love-
question.
I would love to have a conversation with you offline
Okay.
in greater detail, and I'm happy to do that. I think we are the village, and I think it's important, and I'm not defending the school district at all, but it's important to understand their primary job is to educate kids. And we know that without the social emotional foundation, that's really not going to happen very well. However, that's really not their full job. That's
I'm not saying
our
the
job
teachers,
as a
but how are we
community.
getting the community to get to know them? We don't, they
We're
go to
doing
their,
this.
my new guidance counselor at my school didn't know half the resources. We had to tell. So I think we need to get resources into the schools as well. Because
Agreed.
the community out here is great, but they're not going into the schools. They're not being known. And it's
Here's-
really sad.
Thank you. I'm really grateful that you're bringing this up. And one of the pieces that I can share is that it's a cultural shift and a development that does take time. That's not meant to sound like an excuse, and it may be. So if you'd like to reach out to me as well. But I want to point out that there are successes at schools, and it has been growing, and the resources are being tapped into more and more. And we're learning about how to build that out and get the marketing out as well. But the other piece is at your school, you mentioned school counselors. You mentioned some of the school social workers that are there on site. So to tap into them as well as some of these amazing resources here.
We did. One of the teachers did try to go to the school guidance counselor, and she didn't know the resources. I mean, she didn't even know about Taravella. So my thing is, we need to get it out to the right people. I'm not blaming the schools. I think the teachers and the schools are trying to do the best they can, and they're doing a great job. I can't thank my son's teachers enough, but they're also at a loss. And with all the drug use, you can't go into a bathroom without smelling pot or anything else. Joel, come into a high school and go see it.
I do want to just go ahead and say you did go ahead and mention Taravella. I actually did go ahead and attend Taravella, so I can actually go ahead and confirm. And that was I graduated back in 2015, and that was normal when I was going to Taravella. You know, them using in the bathrooms or them using in the stairwell. and it was like a lot of funneling of different type of drugs. So that was just back in 2015. So I can only imagine how it is like now.
Joel, I just want to say something that, you know, we are as the county council, we're working with the Broward Sheriff's Department. They do have a program that they want to go to schools. They want to go to middle schools and high schools and even elementary schools to talk about this. So they do have a program, but they're having a hard time getting into the schools to
Exactly. I have the woman's number. I'll give it to you, Joel. She was amazing. My son related to her.
I know her well. I know her well.
So we are working with them to try getting them into the schools to talk to the students, because they do know it's an issue. And when I had a meeting with him, he did tell me that the elementary schools are just as bad as the high schools right now with the kids in elementary schools. So they want to get into the elementary schools as well.
The depth of this conversation right now points out to the level of stress in the world we're living and working in. And there are not enough hands in the school district. There are not enough hands in the community. There are not enough hands in the supply chain. We're living in a different world. We haven't, America and the world hasn't seen since, you know, the Spanish flu 100 years ago, without all the technology. So we're learning as we go, and people are dealing with these stresses in ways that are going to impact them for decades. What I'd like to do is take a pause and go around the group and ask each one of the panelists what question we should have asked them. What question has been asked to them by their populations that is important to share with the group, because it's a general question. So Lori, can we start with you as a board member? What question are you being asked that it would be important for our population to know the answer to, or at least your thoughts? You're on mute.
Say the last part again. It got all messed up.
What I'm asking is, as a board member, you're getting calls for certain things. What's the general theme that you need to answer a question? What's that common question that you're being asked that we should all know at least your thoughts about, if not a specific answer?
I think at the end of the day, and it's kind of a lot of what parents are already saying on here, is they want to help their children. They don't know where to go to get that help. They don't know how to access those resources. The BrowardSchools.com website, we do have a lot of resources and where to get that help on there. And, you know, I think it's important to, especially in grades 6th through 12th grade, to have parent-teacher conferences with our teachers to be able to know and sit down with our students to see exactly how they're doing in class and really understand what is exactly going on with the child. And then I think there would be a direct impact with student outcomes if they have those conversations. And I think it's extremely important too that parents are able to access their student grades, know if they're doing their homework, and be able to reach out to the schools, to the guidance department, to ask for help. You know, one of the things I always say is your voice is your power. And I know we have so much going on in our life, but I think it's extremely important to reach out and ask for help from our schools.
Thank you, Lori. And I think Lori said something critically important, and it goes back to the village. We need to communicate with one another. You know, so many parents are working so hard that family dinners drive through at McDonald's or KFC. It's not talking to one another. Or how many of us are in the same room and yet we're just all texting? And this is the fight or flight mechanism. This is the saber-toothed tiger of 10,000 years ago. So we need to, I think, if I'm listening to Lori correctly, and if I'm internalizing it, we need to take the time to talk. I'm sure many of the panelists here are going to say the same thing. I hear from parents, my kid won't talk. I don't think I've ever met a kid that won't talk. It's how we open the door to the talk. Dr. Ruby, what question do we need to know in the world that you work in? What answer or what idea?
As a physician, you know, that want to be able to, what do physicians do? Physicians diagnose, and then we prescribe treatment. That's basically the core job of a physician. By diagnose, we also have to go into assessment, and especially in my field, in this field, we don't rely on blood tests, lab tests, MRIs, CAT scans. We have no choice but to talk to our patients because there are no tests to, so to speak, order. I mean, there are psychological tests in terms of evaluation of learning disabilities, but I don't think that that's what we're talking about. And this is very time consuming. The first question is, you know, how can I get an appointment? Across the socioeconomic system, people cannot find people to go to. Whether, you know, you're on Medicaid or whether or not you're willing to pay out of pocket, it is hard to find mental health. And there's not a day that goes by where it sort of feels like, you know, I'm closing, you know, I have an opening at 2 in the morning. You know, is it possible? And I bet you if I said it out, I would probably get a few people in the audience and say, 2 in the morning, I'm there. You know, we'll wake up and come because it's very difficult. I do believe that there can be, we're trying, at least at Joe DiMaggio, to come up with alternatives to an emergency room visit because A, not only is it very expensive, it's generally unsatisfying because again, you're sitting in with a lot of stuff going on, and one of the initiatives that has been on the table is trying to figure out ways, now that we have perfected the art of telehealth, to be able to get school consultants into the schools by not having to go to the schools, because that in itself is a rate limiting step. You know, the way the geography of South Florida is in a bunch of parallels and perpendiculars. I mean, one of the games that we like to play in New York for the New Yorkers in the audience is the 17,000 ways to get to the George Washington Bridge. In New York, in Florida, there's only 1 or 2 ways to get anywhere. So an hour therapy appointment is a 3-hour ordeal. And students don't want to miss 3 hours a day of their schoolwork besides the social work, besides the socialization and whatever else goes on. So more telehealth services that can access more counselors, and of course, to be able to fund such initiatives such as that. I do believe that there are grants out there to be able to help do that. That can be a way, either as a support to counselors, you know, to be able to get counselors or have group supervision, shall we say, for counselors to be able to meet with those of us who are on the front lines clinically, or for direct patient services, because we can access more that way, and it makes it a lot. I also want to just not forget to the conversation also, and that is the 17, 18, and 19-year-old populations as well. The people who missed out on their senior years of high school and are now in college and are suffering a lot. So it's across the spectrum. And then, of course, I know I saw some of the comments in the audience. And of course, we have to help take care of the parents as well, because whether it's economic issues or loss issues, there is not a household in our county, in our country, who have not experienced loss in one way or another. And that is debilitating when we're asked now to support the younger generation. So we really have to try to come together in a way that, rather than looking at what divides us, because suffering doesn't matter which community you come from. So it's ubiquitous, and we all have to try to support each other with good expertise, good science, and good clinical care.
I wish I had just asked you all to ask the question at the beginning. I could have never said a word. These are critically important responses. Yeah, I mean, that moved me quite a bit, and I hope the audience is internalizing these comments in terms of the way they're asking questions. Carolyn, what's the question in your world, in the mindfulness world, in the SEL world that needs to be answered?
What's needed most starts. And for me to realize that this is a journey, that we're not doing it alone. When you see things in the chat, my heart goes out to the folks who haven't tapped into those resources or been able to find them yet. So hopefully they're grabbing some of those. And when it comes to the SEL and mindfulness part, that's where the seeds are planted when it's not too late or it's not in a reactive mode. So it's the opportunity for that tier 1 where we can learn the skills before it's too late or before we can't access them because we're triggered or we're overwhelmed. So it's to build up that practice and to know that it's a continuous lifelong learning part of building in those life skills. I'm still learning them and developing, and some days it's better than others. So I guess that would be the message, that you're not in this alone, that it is a journey. And those seeds do grow and bloom and blossom. When? That's not always within our control. So
Yeah, and Dr. Ruby said it a little bit earlier in a different way, but death by suicide is, you know, an immediate response to what hopefully is a shorter term or a problem that we could develop resiliency to address. I think you're saying some of that as well. Saborni, in your world, and I know, you know, we said earlier that you're a candle in a forest, but I know you reach out to lots of agencies to provide the additional supports for your population. But what do we need to know? What's the question that needs to be addressed by Broward County?
The question that needs to be addressed is, what else is there besides SunServe for LGBTQ plus youth? Yes, I'm able to send LGBT youth to other agencies. However, when parents are calling me, they are in stress mode. They are in that I need help for my child immediately mode. All they see is us. And sadly, even now, we do have a wait list. And that's not always going to change. Like, there will be a time when it is a small wait list, when there is no wait list, but there will always be a wait list because we are the only ones who do this specific work. We are the only ones who advertise that we do this specific work. And it can also be trusted and verified that we are competent in what it is that we do. I wish there was more discussion of those additional resources. Parents, especially parents of transgender youth, are always calling for information on a competent psychiatrist, a competent endocrinologist, a competent therapist. And while we do have them on staff, each person can only take on 18 clients. And that's only a staff of 5 people taking on 18 clients. And there are over 1,000 LGBTQ plus youth in Broward County. That's a lot to put on SunServe shoulders, but that's a lot that we can't always give up. Like the young person, and I just read someone saying, like, you know, Angie Campbell wrote, therapists are ending sessions with children because they are not opening up, because it's not their field of expertise. I've heard that multiple times, where someone comes to me and they say, oh, my child has been with this therapist, but because this isn't their level of expertise, they suggest that we come to you all. And thank you for that. Get that education. Get that education so that way it is your area of expertise and you can provide those services to this kid, because it is life-saving services you are providing as a therapist or as an endocrinologist or anything else where you are helping someone.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are taking the contact information of these brilliant people, these passionate people, these people who will answer their phone, answer your questions, provide direction, if not immediacy, because these are the people in Broward County that get it done. That's why Bert and Laura brought them together for you. That's part of the answer to Maria's question and other questions. Shantae, I'm sorry, Shantae, you're on that cusp of the school and all of these providers, and you're hearing from the providers that the school isn't doing enough, and you're hearing from the school that the providers aren't doing enough. I know you won't say that, but I'll say it. And what's the question that needs to be shared from where you're sitting?
I couldn't wait to answer this one, Joel. So it goes right along with what Saborni was saying. The question I often get is not a question at all. It's, I want help for my child. And these resources are wonderful. I often give them out myself, but usually by the time I'm speaking to a parent, they are overwhelmed, they are frustrated, they are exacerbated. And what I also hear them saying is, I need help also. And so sometimes just partnering and helping the parent navigate this. This is overwhelming, particularly when this is not your field. You're an expert as a parent. You're an expert on your child, but you're not an expert on navigating these systems, be it within the school system or in the community. So oftentimes when I hear that from a parent, I don't say, here's a couple of numbers, call them. I will say, I will make a phone call. I will have someone call you, taking a little bit of that ease and pressure off that someone is going to help them find the answer. Because like I said, oftentimes when I'm having a conversation with the parent, I'm probably the third or fourth conversation they've had. And at this point, I just need, my focus is to help them make an immediate connection.
Wow. And so again, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't discussed it, but it's immediacy. It's when you see it, deal with it. We can't wait. We don't have the resources. Broward County, if you don't know it, is considered to be resource rich when you look at Florida and other places in the country. We have providers, we have hospitals, but in the face of what's happening with the changing workforce and the pandemic and people leaving fields and level of stress, if we wait too long, to Shantae's point, it becomes too late. It becomes much more of a dramatic intervention, which is a perfect segue to Susan Nyamura.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you everybody for your comments and for the conversation. This is a really difficult space to navigate because, you know, with all of the workforce shortages and the challenges, you know, the whole reality is we are in this together. And I think that there's breakdowns across the board, whether it be from the school system, the community level, the behavioral health community, whatever it is, I think, and I don't think that they're necessarily breakdowns or gaps, right? And, you know, so I pulled up the website of the school board just really quickly and questioned myself, why don't I go on there? It's resource rich, but it's very challenging to navigate, if I have to say, as a parent, right? And looking for the resources, I had to click on probably maybe somewhere around 15 tabs to get into it. So I think sometimes less is more, especially for the populations that we're working with. And many of these individuals happen to be underserved and underinsured, and you know they have a lot of challenges. I have parents call me on a regular basis. We host the Federation of Families here. Family support partners are not funded through Medicaid or through any insurers. They're only funded through Broward Behavioral Health Coalition, and there's not a lot of money put into that. So there's very limited resources with that. I know First Lady DeSantis has an initiative going throughout the state of Florida, which is the Hope Prosperity Program, which is for care navigators to help some of these families navigate the systems, because we have disparities across cultures as well. Hence the reason why our child welfare is being inundated, because there's not a lot of specialties. There's not a lot of help and resources available for the very diverse community that we do have. And to your point, Joel, we do have a very resource rich community. I'm fortunate to get to travel across the state to see what it's like in other areas. And it is frightening, you know, but it doesn't change the fact that we still have a lot of work to do, but the only way that we're going to do it together. But I think a single, a really big highlight here for me is I think I've identified that there's a few parents on here, not as many as would have been helpful to see. I definitely don't see young people. And I think we're talking on behalf of young people and their experiences with whether the service delivery or the school system. And I will tell you, I tried to get my daughter to come and speak. My daughter wrote a profound essay that she would love to deliver to the school board because there's a few simple facts that she has and we didn't touch on any of them. That the kids
Susan,
are experiencing them.
Susan, I can tell you, we do have 5 high school kids on here.
Okay, I
from
can't
3
see
different
everybody,
high schools.
obviously, so thank you for that. So I think it's really super important because they're on here, but we're not hearing them. And I think, you know, this is really about them. And, you know, our movement exists because it's nothing about us without us. We're the recovery movement. We come across, you know, very profound and very succinct. And we want to talk about what our lived experience has been in service deliveries. I've got to experience a lot of those. Baker Acts, you know, all kinds of different systems. And we've got to start asking what happened to you? What is going on? What is the core root instead of, you know, trying to fix things that make us feel uncomfortable, right? And so I would really like to, you know, see a focus group of young people and less professionals. You know, when we started doing, Joel, and you were there, OCP2, when we started that, it started off with all professionals and maybe 2 or 3 families advocating for their young people that have mental health challenges and were being institutionalized. And then it became more families came and more families came and the providers got less and less because we could hear the voices of the individuals that we're talking about. And, you know, I think that's the big question is how do we get those individuals, more of the youth and families at the table and elevate their voice because they're the expert in their lives and they're dealing with their children on a day-to-day basis. And it's a struggle. I too do a lot of crisis de-escalation with my daughter's friends in school and the parents are desperate and they don't know what to do. You know, the kids are coming home drunk from parties that they're doing all kinds of stuff. You know, one bit of advice that I can give to some of the parents that are on here, if you have medication in your medicine cabinets and you're not using it, United Way has doTERRA bags. We have doTERRA bags. You know, they take back the prescriptions, give them back, you know, because the kids are taking them and they're having parties. So really super important. But thank you, Joel. You know, this is my passionate wheelhouse, but I'd like to see some more voice of the individuals that we're referencing.
So ladies and gentlemen, a few more things. We are starting to run down to the final raffle, but again, I think you hear the passion of this panel. I'm hoping you're not hearing negativity as voices are being raised. You're hearing people understanding the challenges that we're facing and trying to come up with rational, affordable, if we can, solutions. So and there is a question in the chat that I do want to get to, but Jamal, do you want to put a bow on what you've heard?
Yeah, sort of just to piggyback off what Ms. Susan was saying, it needs to be more implemented directly to the youth. I feel like it's always, you know, it's a lot of conversations about it, but I feel like nobody goes directly to the youth and, you know, and talks to them directly, like, you know, what's going on, how are you feeling, especially with the mental health aspect, especially with, I will say, within the like people of color and like African and the Black and African American communities, is not really as talked about. The mental health, like you can't really have a full on conversation about it. It's sort of taboo, honestly, to have that type of conversation. So I would like to see more implementation of like sort of in the communities of how to have that, how to start up and have that conversation, you know, with their children and things like that.
Thank you, Jamal. And I will tell you that in our own small way in Deerfield Beach Community Cares, we have a monthly youth voice gathering where it's open to anybody, but we tend to have a population of about 30 young people. It's the 3rd Tuesday of the month. I would welcome anybody to come by because we don't want to upset the kids, to see what we do. Jamal, you'd be welcome to come and chat with our kids. Before I turn it back over to Bert, I want to take a moment of personal privilege. Number one, to thank this incredible panel. I hope it's been meaningful. I know we didn't answer every specific question, but I hope you know you've got people that you can reach out to. I believe everyone put their contact information in the chat. If not, Laura has and Bert has our contact information. I, for one, am open to a particular person that wants to talk to me about a certain circumstance. Not that I have all the answers, but I tend to be a burr on the community for kids. I do want to address, and I did it near the end because it's not time for conversation, but Mr. Serbola had some comments. He typed in caps in a number of them. And I want to address that because I think that we're in this together. It's not the school district's problem. It's our problem. It's not Joe DiMaggio's problem. It's our problem. It's not the drug dealer's problem. It's our problem that people are taking drugs. We are in this together. And there was a comment about people who we need to be more responsible about loss. Well, we absolutely do. But we don't have enough people alone to do that. If you know somebody, Mr. Serbola, who's lost, ask if they need help. Ask me, ask the person themselves. We're in this together. Secondly, you made a comment about the data on discipline in the district. Well, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege and I'm going to answer that question because I created the system 15 years ago. And I know that data exists. And I know that those questions can be answered. But answered for what? What do we want to do? How do we create a healthier environment for our kids and our families so that they can be not unhealthy and they can be more successful? Not because we're pissed off and we don't like a school board member or we don't like a principal. How do we work together? So that's my nickel and I'll stand by it. And Mr. Serbola, if you want to chat with me personally, I'm happy to do so. I want to thank this panel. I wish we had about 3 more hours, although I'm sure you're all tired of hearing me. And Bert, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Do you mind if I make one comment about just to answer one question, if that's all right?
Please do.
It was just the point, I think, Angie, I'm not sure if you're there, hi, about, you know, this idea of you're not being a good enough patient if you're not talking and therefore we're going to close the case type of thing. Learned a long time ago that ultimatums never work. And part of the expertise that you want to do though, and sometimes I've had to sit with patients literally in silence for a whole hour just to hopefully by the next session be able to get them to help find a way to talk and communicate. I will tell this to my trainees over time. It is my job. It is a professional's job to figure out how to relate to the child and not the other way around. And again, I say this to parents with some regularity. It is your job to get on the wavelength of your child and not your child's job to get on your wavelength. So, and that takes expertise, which comes with the points that Ms. Carolyn made earlier, is it's sort of like, take a deep breath, count to 10, and then go break up the fight between you and your children. You know, if you're not feeling you're getting your needs met, try to make that aware, make your professional aware about perhaps another tool to help your child be able to open up. You know, again, I don't know, I may offend the dental community out there, but an occasional lollipop for a child who worked hard in therapy it can go a long way. But that lollipop could be a praise of how well they're doing and how well they're participating. It could be a praise to the parent and perhaps help the child say thanks to the parent for bringing them here. So please don't give up, you know, please be strong. And we on our end will continue to try to do the best we can.
Excellent, excellent comment. Believe me, I've been married 47 years. Ultimatums do not work. Bert?
First of all, I want to thank all the students that are on here. We do have 5 high schools represented on here. We have Western High School, Hollywood Hills High School, Plantation High School, and Terravella High School. So thank you to those students that stayed on this entire time and listened to this. We hope you got something out of this. Remember, you're not alone. We're here to help. please reach out for help. And for parents, we need to listen to our kids when they talk. Really listen to them when they speak to you, because they might be trying to tell you something, but you're not really listening. You really need to listen, and you'll find out what's going on in your kid's life, especially the kids that are having trouble, because we do have a lot of kids right now that are having trouble. And, you know, Joel, I know Joel gets the report, and I get a report every day of how many kids are Baker acted. You know, we have a lot of, especially 10th and 11th graders right now, getting Baker acted on a daily basis. You know, it's really unfound that we have this many kids daily getting Baker acted in our school system, because these kids are having trouble, and it's all suicide tendencies. So we've had elementary kids recently, a lot of elementary kids as well, 4th and 5th graders. So you really need to listen to the kids when they're talking, because they are reaching out for help. Okay, we're going to move on so we can get you guys off here. We're going to do the raffles.